Well, joining me here in our London studio is Oliver McTernan. He is the co-founder and director of the think tank Forward Thinking. Oliver, welcome to the studio. So we just heard there from the US saying that they remain committed to the Gaza ceasefire. And these, of course, are very early days. And you've spent so much time, more than 2 decades, working in conflict resolution in the Middle East. What are your thoughts at this very fragile moment?
Well, I think you're right in saying, Maria, it is an extremely fragile moment, but I think it was predictable. Mm-hmm. I think the celebrations last Monday were a little bit premature because we're dealing with two very traumatized peoples, and that transition, and especially the need to have security in Gaza, should have been understood. So, and also, as your report was saying, that you can't recover bodies overnight. Look at the situation in Gaza without the equipment. Mm-hmm. I think it's almost an impossible task. I think it'll be a miracle if all the bodies are found and identified.
A miracle. And yet we're hearing from Israel that they claim Hamas knows exactly where the hostage remains are, and they seem to be doing a transaction at the moment that this is linked to the entry of aid.
Well, I would be very surprised if Hamas knew exactly where the bodies are. You know, we've had 2 years of war, and with all the sophisticated surveillance, we heard the British were helping on that, the issue of the hostages. Mm-hmm. The Israelis certainly were using all sorts of electronic surveillance to try and identify where hostages were so they could rescue them militarily, and they failed. Mm-hmm. And I think why? Because in a hostage situation, in a small area like Gaza, I'm sure there is complete radio silence, that few would know actually where people were being held. Mm-hmm. And then if the captives were killed with the hostages, mm-hmm. then who is to identify the place? And so I think it's a predictable scene. My fear is that it could be used by Netanyahu mm-hmm. to actually break the ceasefire, because if you look at his language, right from this very start of this war 2 years ago, it hasn't changed, even with all the celebrations going on.
Do you think he'll do that? Do you think he'll use this situation, that the fact that they cannot find the hostage remains, to restart
I
the war
think
in
that's
Gaza?
Combined with other things. What worries me too is this, as your report pointed out, people don't know where the demarcation line is.
The yellow lines,
and this was always the worry, mm-hmm. if Israeli troops would stay within the boundaries of Gaza, that you would get this shooting and killing of people going on. And I was horrified to hear that the drones are still operating, because you know, when you're in Gaza, even before this war, the one thing day and night would drive you crazy was the drones. And
we can even hear them when we're speaking to our correspondents from here, from our studio. It's incredible.
It just builds pressure.
Correct.
And they're not the signs you would expect if people were serious about peace. But I also have major misgivings about the 20-point plan, because to me, it was an ultimatum. It was a unilateral ultimatum. Now, Hamas, I think, wisely responded by saying, okay, we'll go along, let's try and get the first stage over, then let's discuss the next stage. And I think probably in that, the advice of President Erdogan and others was helpful to them to be able to play the diplomatic game. But now I fear the excuse is being used, right, you haven't delivered on what you promised. Yeah. Well, they did caution before even the ceasefire came into effect that they may have difficulty in identifying and finding the bodies. And
now we have Turkish teams, we just heard, wanting to go in and help. And you worked on the negotiation of the Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit in 2006. And so going back to that point that you made about Israel having that technology to be able to find the remains, surely Trump will be able to see through that and not let Netanyahu get away with this and use this as an excuse to restart the war in Gaza.
I would hope, but, you know, we still don't know how. Trump gave Netanyahu the green light in March to restart this war. And since then, we have had over 17,000 people killed. I just don't know how committed he is.
Trump.
To ensuring that at least the ceasefire will go ahead. But I think he still believes, and very firmly believes, that peace comes through strength. Now, I think what he has, there has to be a shift if we're going to get a durable peace, and that is to understand that peace will only come through justice. Early on, he said, "I'll be fair to you all." Now, it remains to be seen, will he be applying to the Palestinians? Because at the end of the day, Maria, the root of the problem is occupation. And unless Trump has the, I would say, moral as well as political courage to say, enough, we've got to really end occupation, Gaza, West Bank, East Jerusalem, give Palestinians the basic human right to be able to form their own state and their own governance. I think we will never have the peace, or Israel will never enjoy the security it has a right to.
What do you think happens in the next few days?
It would be a very unwise person to predict that. Because I think in this sort of situation, I've seen it so often before in the last 20 years, the spoilers have a real opportunity to develop an incident, and then it sparks out of control, and we find ourselves back to the bombing and the whole closure again and the isolation of Gaza. I hope I'm wrong in predicting that, but we've seen it time and time again. When we thought there was hope, when we thought there was political movement, the spoilers get in there and you see the reoccurrence of violence. You know, this is a 77-year-old cycle of violence.
77,
this is
absolutely.
Just a tiny little break. It gives us a chance, but will the international community, as well as Donald Trump, be able to take that? I don't know. Certainly, I don't think Netanyahu is in the mindset to do so.
So many important points. So we have to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed. Olive McTernan, really great to have you here. Thank you for your analysis and time.
Thank you.